The room went silent when Camilla Vale dropped the envelope onto the dinner table. "Sophia, come here." White maid Sophia Bennett stopped beside the doorway, still holding a silver serving tray. Nearly 60 guests were gathered inside Lorenzo Vitoli's private dining hall. Family members, business partners, old friends, and men who knew better than to speak carelessly inside the Mafia boss's home. Sophia walked forward. "Yes, Camilla smiled. "Empty your apron." Sophia frowned. "I'm sorry." "You heard me." Lorenzo looked up from the head of the table. "Camilla." She touched his shoulder. "Trust me." Then she turned back to Sophia. "Your pockets." Sophia slowly placed the tray down. One by one, she removed a handkerchief, 2 room keys, a pen, and a folded shopping receipt. Camilla grabbed the receipt first. "Interesting." She opened it dramatically. Bell Street Pawn. $800. A few guests exchanged looks. Sophia's face tightened. "That's private." "Oh, I'm sure." Camilla read louder. "Men's vintage watch. Gold case. Black leather strap." Lorenzo's expression changed. Camilla continued. "Our maid has been selling expensive men's watches while working inside this house." Sophia looked directly at her. "You searched my things." "I investigated theft." "I haven't stolen anything." Camilla laughed. "Of course not." She reached into the envelope and removed several photographs. A missing silver bracelet. An antique cigarette case. 2 gold cufflinks. All reported missing from this estate during the last 4 months. Sophia stared at the photographs. "I've never seen those." Camilla leaned closer. "Then perhaps you'll explain the pawn receipt." Sophia's hands curled at her sides. For 8 months she had worked inside Lorenzo's estate without a single complaint. She had never asked him for money. Never used his name. Never even entered the private family wing unless instructed. Now dozens of people were watching her like a criminal. "Answer her," one guest muttered. Sophia swallowed. Then quietly began untying her apron. Lorenzo noticed. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." Camilla smiled. Finally, a sensible decision. Sophia folded the apron carefully. "I won't stand here and beg people to believe me." That was when Lorenzo suddenly stood up. His chair scraped across the marble. Everyone froze. He walked toward the table and took the pawn receipt from Camilla. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then his face changed. "Where did you get this?" Sophia looked at him. "The receipt." "The watch." Camilla interrupted. "Lorenzo, that is exactly the point." He raised one hand. She stopped. Lorenzo looked at Sophia again. "The watch described here. Where did it come from?" Sophia's voice was quieter now. "My father's old storage box." Lorenzo stared at the receipt. Gold case. Black leather strap. And one detail Camilla had not read aloud. Engraved initials, MV. Lorenzo's younger brother had been named Matteo Vitoli. Matteo had died 9 years earlier. And the watch he wore every day had disappeared the same night. Lorenzo turned toward Sophia. "Your father's name?" "Daniel Bennett." The color drained from Lorenzo's face. He knew that name. Daniel Bennett had been Matteo's driver. The last person officially seen with him alive. Camilla immediately stepped closer. "You see? Her family had stolen property from yours." Sophia looked at her. "No." She reached into her dress pocket and removed something small. A pawn ticket. Not the receipt Camilla had found. Another one. The watch wasn't sold. Lorenzo took it. The ticket showed the item had only been placed temporarily for appraisal. Sophia continued. "I found it 2 weeks ago after my father died." Lorenzo's eyes sharpened. "He died 2 weeks ago?" She nodded. "And before he died, he told me never to bring that watch into this house." Camilla went completely still. Lorenzo noticed. "Why?" Sophia hesitated. "My father said if anyone from the Vitoli family saw it, they would start asking what really happened to Matteo. The room seemed to shrink. Lorenzo lowered his voice. What really happened? Sophia looked toward Camilla. That single glance was enough. Camilla snapped. Don't look at me. Sophia finally understood. The humiliation. The public accusation. The missing items. Camilla had never been trying to expose a thief. She had been trying to make sure nobody listened to the maid. Lorenzo stepped closer. Sophia. She met his eyes. Tell me what your father said. Her voice trembled. He said Matteo wasn't alone the night he died. Lorenzo went still. Who was with him? Sophia looked at Camilla again. Then answered. A woman. Camilla's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered across the floor. The broken champagne glass glittered between Camilla and Sophia. Nobody moved. Lorenzo's voice was quiet. Who was the woman? Sophia looked at him, then at the 60 guests still watching. My father never told me her name. Camilla exhaled sharply. Convenient. Sophia ignored her. He only said she wore a red coat and arrived at the river warehouse shortly before Matteo died. Lorenzo's eyes narrowed. Matteo had officially died when his car went through a barrier near the river. No warehouse had ever appeared in the police report. What warehouse? Pier 12. Lorenzo turned toward his security chief. Clear the room. Camilla stepped forward. This dinner is for your father's memorial. It's over. Within minutes, the dining hall emptied. Sophia remained near the fireplace while Lorenzo placed Matteo's old pawn ticket on the table. Camilla folded her arms. You're seriously listening to this? Lorenzo looked at her. I'm listening because my brother's watch was hidden for 9 years. By her father. Yes. And somehow I'm the suspicious one. Sophia finally spoke. You planted that receipt in my apron. Camilla laughed. Prove it. Sophia reached for her folded apron. There's something else. From the inner seam, she removed a tiny paper tag. Camilla's expression changed instantly. Lorenzo noticed. What is it? Sophia handed it to him. A dry cleaning tag. Old. Faded. But the handwritten description was still readable. Red wool coat, sea veil. Lorenzo slowly lifted his eyes. Camilla's surname. Her face hardened. That could belong to anyone. Sophia shook her head. My father kept it inside the watchbox. Lorenzo turned the tag over. On the back, Daniel Bennett had written a date. The night Matteo died. Camilla backed away. I wasn't even in the city. Lorenzo stared at her. You told me you were studying in Paris. I was. Then why did Daniel have a tag from your coat? I don't know. Lorenzo called his security chief. Find every travel record Camilla has from that week. Camilla's eyes flashed. You don't get to investigate my entire life. He looked at her. My brother died. For the first time, she had no answer. Sophia quietly said, there was also a note. Lorenzo turned. What note? My father burned most of it before he died. I only saw one line. What did it say? Sophia hesitated. Matteo knew he was being followed. Lorenzo's face tightened. By whom? I don't know. Then Sophia remembered something she had almost dismissed. My father also wrote 2 letters beside the date. Which letters? LV. Lorenzo went completely still. Camilla noticed. So? Sophia looked at him. What does LV mean? Lorenzo didn't answer immediately, because only one person in his family had those initials. Lucia Vitoli. His mother. The woman whose memorial dinner they had just been attending. Lorenzo's mother had supposedly died 6 years before Matteo. That's impossible, he whispered. Sophia frowned. What? My mother was dead when Matteo died. Camilla suddenly laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because she looked relieved. There. Your maid's father was confused. But Lorenzo wasn't convinced. He walked to the family cabinet and removed an old photograph. His mother stood beside a black car. Red coat. Sophia stared at it. My father had a photograph like this. Lorenzo turned sharply. Where? In his storage unit. When? 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you bring it? Because someone emptied the unit the day after he died. Silence. Lorenzo slowly looked toward Camilla. She shook her head. Don't. You knew Daniel died. So did half the staff. No. He stepped closer. Sophia never told anyone why she took leave. Camilla's face changed. Lorenzo continued. You knew exactly when her father died. Sophia felt cold. Camilla had approved her 3-day absence personally. At the time, Sophia had believed it was kindness. Now she understood. Camilla had been waiting for Daniel Bennett to die. Lorenzo's security chief entered. Boss. What? We checked Miss Vale's travel records. Camilla closed her eyes. She never flew to Paris that week. Lorenzo looked at her. Where was she? The security chief held up an old hotel registration. Riverfront Hotel. 2 blocks from Pier 12. Sophia stared at Camilla. Lorenzo's voice dropped. You were there the night my brother died. Camilla's expression finally broke. Yes. Nobody spoke. Then she whispered. But I wasn't there to kill Matteo. Lorenzo stepped closer. Then why were you there? Camilla looked toward the photograph of Lucia Vitoli. Because Matteo called me. Why? Her voice trembled. He said your mother was alive. And for the second time that night, Lorenzo felt the floor disappear beneath him. Lorenzo stared at Camilla. My mother was alive. Camilla nodded slowly. The night Matteo died, he called me from Pier 12. Why you? Because he didn't trust anyone inside your family. That answer hit harder than Lorenzo expected. Sophia remained near the table, watching both of them. Camilla continued. Matteo said he had seen Lucia. He believed someone had hidden her death to move control of the family into different hands. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. My mother's funeral was 6 years earlier. I know. Then either Matteo was wrong. Camilla looked at him. Or someone buried an empty coffin. The room went silent. Sophia thought about her father's storage box. The watch. The dry cleaning tag. The burned note. Pieces that had seemed unrelated were suddenly pointing toward the same night. Lorenzo asked, what happened at the warehouse? Camilla sat down. When I arrived, Matteo was terrified. He kept saying your mother had been moved again. Moved where? He never told me. Why? Because your father's men arrived. Lorenzo went still. My father. Camilla nodded. Matteo told me to leave through the back entrance. I did. And you never told me. I was 22, Lorenzo. Your family frightened me. You later agreed to marry into it. Camilla looked away. That was different. Too different. Sophia noticed the hesitation. You came back for something. Camilla's eyes snapped toward her. Sophia continued. You weren't just afraid that night. You wanted something from Matteo. Lorenzo looked at Camilla. What? She said nothing. Sophia stepped closer. My father hid Matteo's watch. You searched my things after my father died. You planted evidence on me. You wanted me discredited before I could speak. Camilla's face hardened. Lorenzo's voice dropped. What were you looking for? Finally, Camilla answered. A key. Sophia frowned. What key? Matteo wore it on the chain of his watch. Lorenzo picked up the pawn ticket. There was no key. Then Daniel removed it. Sophia suddenly remembered the storage box. The bottom had been unusually thick. My father's box had a false base. Lorenzo turned to her. You still have it? At my apartment. They left immediately. Camilla was not allowed to come. 30 minutes later, Lorenzo and Sofia stood inside her small apartment while two trusted guards remained outside. Sofia placed Daniel's wooden storage box on the kitchen table. She ran her fingers beneath the lining. A narrow panel lifted. Inside lay a tiny brass key. And a photograph. Lorenzo took the photograph first. Matteo stood beside an older woman wearing dark glasses. Her hair was shorter. Her face thinner. But Lorenzo knew her instantly. Mom. The photograph was dated 3 weeks before Matteo died. Sofia whispered, then he was telling the truth. Lorenzo turned it over. One address was written on the back. St. Agnes Home, Room 14. Sofia searched the name. The facility had closed 8 years ago. But one archived article remained. Private residential care. Patients admitted under confidential identities. Lorenzo's expression darkened. Someone hid my mother in a care home. Sofia looked at him. And Matteo found her. He gripped the brass key. Then this opened something at St. Agnes. They reached the abandoned facility before dawn. Most of the building had been stripped. Room 14 was empty. No bed. No furniture. Only an old wall cabinet. The brass key fit. Inside was a cassette recorder and a sealed envelope. Lorenzo opened it. The handwriting belonged to Lucia Vitoli. His mother. He sat down. The first line read, Lorenzo, if you are reading this, Matteo failed to get me home. His hands began to shake. Sofia quietly moved closer but did not touch him. Lorenzo continued reading. Lucia explained that her death had been staged after she discovered someone inside the Vitoli organization was secretly redirecting family money and arranging violent disputes to eliminate rivals. She had tried to expose him. Instead, she was drugged, declared dead, and hidden inside St. Agnes under another name. Matteo eventually found her. But before he could rescue her, someone learned what he knew. Lorenzo whispered. That's why he died. Sofia opened the cassette recorder. There was still a tape inside. Lorenzo pressed play. Static. Then Lucia's voice. My sons must never trust the man who arranged my funeral. Lorenzo froze. Only one man had handled every detail of Lucia Vitoli's funeral. Father Gabriel Mocchetti, the priest who had served the Vitoli family for 35 years. The same priest scheduled to officiate Lorenzo and Camilla's wedding. Sofia looked at him. That can't be coincidence. Then footsteps sounded in the hallway. Slow. Unhurried. A familiar voice came through the open doorway. No, Sofia. Father Gabriel stepped into room 14. It isn't. And in his hand was Matteo's missing gold watch. Father Gabriel stood in the doorway holding Matteo's gold watch. Lorenzo rose slowly. You arranged my mother's funeral. Gabriel nodded. And you knew she was alive? Yes. Sofia felt Lorenzo's anger change. Not louder. Colder. Why? Gabriel stepped inside. Because Lucia asked me to. Lorenzo froze. Sofia looked between them. What? Gabriel placed Matteo's watch on the table. Your mother discovered the theft inside the Vitoli organization years before anyone else. She thought disappearing would protect you and Matteo while she gathered proof. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. She let us bury her. She believed it would last weeks. Gabriel's expression darkened. It lasted years because someone changed the plan. Who? Gabriel looked at the cassette recorder. Your father. Lorenzo went still. My father died believing my mother was dead. No. Gabriel shook his head. He knew where she was. Sofia watched Lorenzo absorb that. The man who had raised him to worship family loyalty had hidden his own wife. Gabriel continued. Lucia discovered your father had been borrowing money from rival families to keep the Vitoli business alive. When she threatened to expose him, he realized her disappearance could solve 2 problems. He trapped her at St. Agnes. Yes. And Matteo found out. Gabriel nodded. That's why Matteo called Camilla. Lorenzo looked up sharply. Why her? Because Camilla's father had financed part of your father's debt. Sofia understood. Camilla had not wandered into Matteo's final night by accident. Her family was connected to the money behind it. Lorenzo picked up Matteo's watch. Then why did Daniel Bennett have this? Gabriel looked at Sofia. Because Matteo gave it to your father. Sofia's breath caught. Why? Daniel drove Matteo to St. Agnes the night he tried to remove Lucia. Gabriel pointed toward the watch. The key was hidden inside the chain. Matteo knew he might not survive the night. He gave Daniel the watch and told him to protect it. Sofia's eyes filled. My father spent 9 years carrying proof that could have cleared Matteo's name. He spent 9 years keeping you alive. Lorenzo looked at Gabriel. Where is my mother now? The priest's expression changed. I don't know. You expect me to believe that? After Matteo died, Lucia was moved from St. Agnes. By my father. No. Gabriel hesitated. By Camilla's father. Sofia felt the pieces shift again. Camilla's father had not just known about Lucia. He had taken control of her. Lorenzo immediately called his security team. Find Camilla. The answer came seconds later. She's gone. Lorenzo's face hardened. From where? Your estate. Sofia's stomach dropped. Camilla had been left under supervision. Someone had helped her leave. Gabriel spoke quietly. There's only one place she would go. Lorenzo turned. Where? The old Vale estate. Camilla's childhood home had been abandoned for years. They arrived before sunrise. One upstairs window was lit. Inside, they found Camilla standing beside an elderly woman seated near the fireplace. Lorenzo stopped breathing. The woman looked older than the photograph. Much older. But when she raised her eyes, Lorenzo knew. Mom. Lucia Vitoli stared at her son. Her lips trembled. Lorenzo. He didn't move. 20 years of grief, anger, and questions stood between them. Then Camilla stepped forward. I brought her here. Lorenzo looked at her. You knew where she was this entire time. Not until 6 months ago. That's when you agreed to marry me. Camilla said nothing. Sofia understood immediately. The engagement had never started as love. It had started because Camilla needed access to Lorenzo. But something else was wrong. Lucia looked terrified of Camilla. Sofia moved closer. Mrs. Vitoli, are you here willingly? Camilla snapped. Stay out of this. Lorenzo turned toward her. No. Let her answer. Lucia slowly lifted one hand. Around her wrist was a hospital identification band. Sofia read the printed name. Maria Vale. Camilla's mother's name. Sofia looked at Camilla. You hid Lucia under your mother's identity. Camilla's face tightened. Then Lucia whispered. She didn't. Everyone froze. Lucia pointed toward the hallway. Her father did. A floorboard creaked behind them. An older man stepped from the darkness. Camilla went pale. Dad. Edmund Vale had supposedly died 4 years earlier. Just like Lucia. Just like so many people connected to this secret. He looked at Lorenzo calmly. You finally found your mother. Then his eyes moved to Sofia. And Daniel Bennett's daughter found more than she was ever supposed to. In his hand was a folder marked Matteo Vitoli, Original Death Report. Edmund smiled. Would you like to know which person in this room actually ordered your brother killed? Edmund Vale held up Matteo's original death report. Lorenzo stared at him. Say the name. Edmund smiled. You're still assuming Matteo died because he found your mother. Lucia gripped the arms of her chair. Don't listen to him. No, mother, Lorenzo said quietly. I've spent 9 years listening to everyone except the truth. Edmund opened the folder. Inside were photographs from Pier 12, statements never entered into the official investigation, and one handwritten order. Sophia recognized the signature immediately. Daniel Bennett. Her father. Her face drained. No. Edmund watched her carefully. Daniel drove Matteo to the river. Sophia stepped backward. You're saying my father killed him? I'm saying his signature released the car that carried Matteo to his death. Lorenzo took the paper. Then Sophia noticed something. Her father's surname was misspelled. Bennett. Daniel had corrected people about that missing second T his entire life. He didn't sign this. Edmund's smile disappeared. Sophia moved closer. My father wrote his name on every birthday card, every school form, every note he ever left me. He never spelled it that way. Lorenzo turned the page. A second signature had the same error. Forgery. Lucia whispered, Edmund created those reports. Camilla stared at her father. You told me Daniel betrayed Matteo. I told you what kept you useful. Her expression broke. All those years, Camilla had believed her father's version of the story. That Daniel stole evidence. That Lucia manipulated Matteo. That the Vitoli family had destroyed her own family first. You used me to get close to Lorenzo. Edmund's voice hardened. I gave you a purpose. You made me frame an innocent maid. You did that yourself. Camilla flinched. For once, he refused to carry the blame for her cruelty. Lorenzo stepped toward Edmund. Why Matteo? Edmund finally stopped pretending. Because he found Lucia. And because he found the account books your father and I kept together. Lucia closed her eyes. The truth was uglier than anyone expected. Lorenzo's father had borrowed heavily to save the Vitoli businesses during a financial collapse. Edmund had arranged the money through shell companies, then quietly gained leverage over Vitoli properties. Lucia discovered it. Her disappearance prevented her from exposing them. Years later, Matteo found her at St. Agnes. He was going to bring her home, Edmund said. And tell you everything. So you stopped him? Yes. Camilla whispered. You killed him. Edmund looked at his daughter without emotion. I protected what would eventually become yours. Camilla stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Then Edmund reached for Lucia. We're leaving. Sophia stepped between them. No. He laughed. You really haven't learned your place. Sophia did not move. My place is wherever I decide to stand. Edmund grabbed her arm. Lorenzo crossed the room instantly. Take your hand off her. The words were quiet. Edmund released her. Outside, engines approached. Edmund smiled again. My men. No, Camilla said. He looked toward her. She held his phone. While he had been focused on Lorenzo, she had sent his location and photographed every page of the original death report. To the police, she said. Edmund's face twisted. You stupid girl. No. Camilla looked at Sophia. I finally stopped blaming other women for the choices men in my family made. Sirens grew louder. Edmund tried to reach the rear door. Lucia pointed toward the old service corridor. He'll use the cellar exit. Lorenzo's men intercepted him before he reached it. Lorenzo could have ordered something far worse. Instead, he stepped aside when investigators entered. I want him alive. Edmund looked almost disappointed. You've become weak. Lorenzo shook his head. No. I became tired of burying people before they could answer for what they did. The investigation that followed cleared Daniel Bennett's name. Matteo's death was reopened as murder. Lucia's false death records, illegal confinement, and Edmund's financial scheme all became part of the same case. Camilla admitted planting the pawn receipt and trying to destroy Sophia's credibility. Lorenzo ended their engagement. He did not forgive her simply because she finally helped. Neither did Sophia. But when Camilla apologized privately, Sophia answered, You don't need my forgiveness to become better than you were. Months later, Lucia returned to the Vitoli estate by her own choice. Lorenzo did not ask Sophia to remain as a maid. She had already resigned. Instead, she used the money her father left her to open a small restoration shop specializing in old watches and family heirlooms. One afternoon, Lorenzo entered carrying Matteo's watch. Sofia looked up. "You trust me with that?" "I trust you more than the people who spent years telling me who I was supposed to trust." She repaired the clasp while he watched. When she finished, Lorenzo placed the watch back on the counter. "Dinner?" Sofia raised an eyebrow. "Is that an order?" "No." "Good." She closed the shop ledger. "Then I might say yes." Lorenzo smiled. At the memorial dinner months earlier, Sofia had stood alone while an entire room watched her being humiliated. Lorenzo had suddenly stood up because he recognized his brother's watch. He never imagined that standing up for the maid would also force him to finally stand against the lies his own family had lived with for years. And this time, when Sofia walked beside him, she wore no apron and carried no tray. She walked beside him because she chose to.